This is activity 58, and this activity begins in letter A with the law that Congress passed in response to all this testimony and all of its reflection on the evils being suffered by African Americans in those southern states where they were newly freed. And so in March of 1866, you get the Civil Rights Act of 1866. And you can see as you read this carefully that it addresses the very problems that we were studying in Activity 57. Now it speaks of citizens of every race and color, and it includes citizens of every race and color, but the focus is on problems being experienced by African Americans. That's the situation, the circumstance of the day that they're dealing with. So this, as you can see, addresses the problems as a result of this law. The newly freed slaves in those southern states will be able to make and enforce contracts. So if they work under contract and they're not paid, they'll be able to sue their employer to get paid. They can inherit, purchase, lease, sell, and hold and convey real and personal property. So that problem we saw in the previous activity of newly freed slaves not being allowed to own land or other property is eliminated by this law. And they'll have access to the civil courts to address wrongs against them of this sort. It goes on to say, and this is the part maybe to focus on, that these newly freed slaves will be entitled to full and equal benefit of all laws and proceedings, so the laws made by the legislature and the proceedings of the courts of law, all laws and proceedings for the security of person and property. It's very explicit that the rights being guaranteed are person and property. And if you think back to our sacred triangle, those rights are known in legal terminology in Blackstone, for example, as the rights of personal security, personal liberty, and the right to acquire and possess property. So the rights of person are the rights of personal security and personal liberty, and then property is the third. So those are different ways of talking about it. Life, liberty, and property, personal security, personal liberty, property, or person and property all means the same thing. So these newly freed slaves will enjoy all the benefits of these laws and proceedings for the security of person and property as is enjoyed by white citizens. So it's saying that whatever protection white citizens have in their person and property, black citizens must also have that same protection. And also the black citizens shall be subject to like punishment, pains, and penalties, and none other. So back in those days, if you had a white man rape a woman, maybe there was a 20-year jail term, whereas if a black man raped a woman, or a white woman especially, it would be the death penalty. There was different penalties on the books for the same crimes depending on who was the perpetrator. This is eliminating all of that. You have to have the same punishment for a crime on the books, regardless of whether it's a black person or a white person who commits the crime. Now letter B takes us to the next step. This law was vetoed by the President. The President of the United States at that time, Andrew Johnson, said that this law was unconstitutional. And so he vetoed it. The idea that it was unconstitutional goes to the grounds on which they thought they had constitutional authority. The framers of this law, the Civil Rights Act of 1866, thought that the 13th Amendment gave them the authority to pass this law. The 13th Amendment abolished slavery, so the reasoning was that, well, they're no longer slaves, so they're free, so they're free citizens, so that, of course they have the rights of person and property. And the second section of the 13th Amendment says, and Congress will have power to make laws to enforce this. So they thought, well, we have laws, we have the power to make sure that the southern states guarantee person and property. This was by no means accepted by everyone. As I said, the President vetoed it, saying that Congress has no authority to do it, not in Article 1, Section 8, not by the 13th Amendment. And as you'll see, there were other concerns. So they overturned the president's veto, but then they got to thinking, how can we make this a permanent part of our system, that states have to guarantee the rights of person and property of everyone, including